The manhwa begins with someone rising from the ground, covered in blood, as a winged man stands before him. The celestial being declares, "God is dead." Humanity worshipped gold and revered arcane engineering until, in the end, they became slaves to themselves. The man holding a sword questions how this can be fair. His opponent wraps the blade in a powerful aura, but despite this he charges forward, asking why this even exists. He screams as he swings his sword, only to be utterly obliterated by a colossal explosion from his enemy. It is then revealed that this is all part of the most popular apocalyptic fantasy game of the moment, Arcane Soul. The defeated man screams in fury, calling the game a pay-to-win garbage. His name is Kim Jun-soo, a 22-year-old university student. His opponent mocks him, saying that he did pretty well for a free-to-play player, but in the end, it was his bad luck. After all, he had been playing on auto mode the whole time. The enemy's ID is rich heavenly demon Chan Jun-soo insults him, but the opponent simply prepares to end the fight, admitting that it was fun and that he had never seen a player get this far without spending money. Jun-soo is in a public place and clearly furious. He yells, outraged that he had invested 10,000 hours into the game, only to be surpassed by someone who spent thousands of dollars. He sighs, realizing that the real idiot was him, wasting time on this terrible game. He decides that at least he'll do his daily missions before focusing on his homework. After all, even though he hates the game, he still sticks to his routines. With little hope, he does a free gacha pull, already expecting a terrible result, just like every other time, probably getting another generic warrior named Kim. However, when the draw finishes, he is shocked. A platinum chest appears on the screen and his heart races. When he finally sees the character he got, he is astonished to realize it's the heavenly demon himself, an SSR unit. He wonders how the hell he pulled this off, as it's the best character in the game. The chances of getting the heavenly demon in a free draw are ridiculously low. There are an absurd number of zeros in that percentage. Excited, he begins to dance in public, declaring that this game now deserves the Game of the Year award and that he needs to start leveling up his new character. It is revealed that the most efficient way to level up a character in Arcane Soul is by sacrificing other already leveled characters to serve as experience. Now, Jun-soo no longer feels envious of the whale players, the ones who spend fortunes on the game. He decides to use all the countless warrior Kims he's accumulated over his thousands of hours of play to strengthen his heavenly demon. On the screen we see the characters being consumed one by one, their experience pouring into his new champion. With a smile on his face, he says that he'll finally be able to play the game just like the whales. But in the middle of his excitement, he completely forgets that he's in a public place and starts walking absent-mindedly, right into the middle of the street. When he looks to the right, he realizes, of course, the phone slips from his hands and he mutters that this situation feels strangely familiar. When he opens his eyes again, he's staring at an unfamiliar ceiling, completely confused. He wonders why he's in a hospital. His head throbs and then the memory comes rushing back. He walked right into traffic like a complete idiot and nearly got run over. He mentally curses himself for being so careless. Suddenly, a woman enters the room, calling him Warrior Kim, surprised that he's awake. He furrows his brow and asks what she's talking about. The woman says she'll call the doctor and leaves in a hurry. Jun-soo is puzzled by the name she used, and when he looks at the clipboard with his information next to the bed, he's shocked. It clearly says Warrior Kim. Additionally, the report indicates that he suffered a dislocation and a concussion due to the accident. He wonders what kind of absurd mistake this is and lets out a long sigh. Perhaps, deep down, he really does feel guilty for sacrificing all his Warrior Kims to gain experience, but that still doesn't explain why his name on the clipboard says Warrior Kim. Trying to make sense of the situation, he attempts to get up, but the instant he puts weight on his leg, a searing pain shoots through his body, and he lets out a deafening scream. A nurse rushes into the room, telling him that he can't move yet. Still writhing in pain, he asks why it hurts so much. At that moment, the doctor enters the room and explains that he was hit by a truck and, considering the circumstances, got off with few injuries. Still completely confused, Jun-soo furrows his brow and asks what they're talking about. The doctor responds that they still need to do more tests and that he'll need an MRI and a magical vision test. He freezes when he hears the word magical and wonders what the hell they're saying. Is he having a stroke? Is he still dreaming? Meanwhile, at the reception, they're calculating the costs of his hospitalization, including the tests such as the CT scan and MRI. When they finally give him the total, his heart almost stops. 22.3 million won, around $16,000. Totally outraged, he retorts that he was there for just 4 days, so how can the bill be this absurd? The receptionist, with complete calm, answers that he doesn't have insurance and has to pay everything out of pocket. Confused, he asks what she's talking about. After all, every Korean has national health insurance. The woman looks at him as though he's delirious and responds with a question. What are you talking about? You don't have insurance from the Legion or the Magic Tower. A chill runs down Junsu's spine when he hears those names. He doesn't fully understand what's going on, but those words sound strangely familiar. Legion, Megacorp, Magic Tower, Sacred Order. Then it hits him. These are the four factions that dominate Arcane Soul. The world where God abandoned humanity. Where arcane science advanced drastically. Where Earth was overrun by monsters. Where humans modified their own bodies to survive. His mind starts to fail him. He falls into denial. No. The summary? This world is a hell to live in. Hours later, he finds himself in a dark alley shouting at the top of his lungs. Why the hell did I end up in this game? He remembers how happy he was when he went to sleep that night, after finally getting the heavenly demon. But now he realizes the cruel irony of fate. He didn't reincarnate as a protagonist. He became a tutorial character. Maybe this is divine punishment for sacrificing all of his old characters. Finally, he arrives at Warrior Kim's house. Looking around, he lets out a heavy sigh. This crap is smaller than my bathroom. He can't believe this guy was so miserable. Exhausted, he throws himself onto the bed. His body is battered. He has no money. And now, what should he do? Then reality hits him like a punch to the stomach. If this is really the world of Arcane Soul, events like nuclear wars, dimensional rifts, and even the rebirth of ancient gods are going to happen soon. And when that happens, this place will turn into a true hell on earth. He has no idea how he ended up here, but one thing is certain. If he stays still, he will definitely die. Then, suddenly, something occurs to him. His gaze locks on his own hands and he finally understands what this means. Without hesitation, he grabs a pen and raises it above his palm. Looking down, he murmurs that he needs to test this before it's too late. For a moment, he hesitates. But then, gathering all his courage, he stabs the pen into the top of his hand with all the strength he can muster. The pain explodes in his skin, and he lets out a loud scream as he pulls the pen out. It has pierced his hand completely. Immediately, a green aura begins to swirl around the wound, healing it before his eyes. A smile spreads across his face. I knew this would work. He has just obtained a trait called Wound Recovery. Now everything makes sense. The reason he created and sacrificed so many Warrior Kims was because this character is the only one without a base trait. However, this means it's possible to unlock and swap traits freely, allowing players to shape Warrior Kim however they want. For someone like him, who always played strategically and never had luck with rare characters, Warrior Kim was the best choice. And now, he is Warrior Kim. This means he can acquire any trait as long as he works to earn it. As he watches, his wounds start to fully heal, regenerating thanks to the newly acquired ability. He takes a deep breath and reflects. In Arcane Soul, you die if you're poor, weak, or if your luck runs out. But he won't let that happen to him. He spent 10,000 hours playing this game. He knows all the shortcuts. He knows how to break the system. The scene cuts to his global ranking, which plummets from 115,000th place to the top 7,000. Then he climbs into the 3-digit ranks, finally reaching the top 9. Now he's above monsters, literally in the top 9. He doesn't know exactly what that means, but he'll figure it out. Plan change, make money. Now he walks confidently into a talent agency, muttering to himself. With Warrior Kim's body, this is a free pass to the top. Inside the player registration sector, a man reviews his file and raises an eyebrow. So, this is your first time at a player recruitment office? Junsu nods in confirmation. Yes. I want to enter the monopurification field. The recruiter stares at him, surprised. Monopurification? Junsu nods. He needs money to fund that pay-to-win gacha nonsense, and using his own body for work is the only option available. The man leans back in his chair, putting his feet on the table. He sighs, then looks at Junsu with an amused expression. They even call it monopurification, but do you have any idea what clearing a dungeon really means? The badge on the table reveals his name, Choi Seon-soo, Player Recruitment Director. Junsu crosses his arms and responds without hesitation. Of course I know. Seon-soo lets out a sarcastic laugh. Are you sure? Because honestly, your resume is completely empty. Junsu rolls his eyes and confidently responds. It's obvious that I understand how this damn game works. I know that the mana contained is what caused the monsters to overrun the world of Arcane Soul. He continues explaining, clearing a dungeon isn't just about killing monsters and collecting loot. In the long run, prolonged exposure to the contained mana can erode someone's humanity, turning them into something else. This process is called mutation. And that's what makes the job so deadly. Su sighs and says it's fine. Once they gather enough people, he'll assign him to a team. Su thanks him, but the man still looks skeptical. He stares at him and asks if he's absolutely sure about going through with it. I am, Su answers without hesitation. Su sighs again and comments. I've seen many guys like you take this job for money and come out completely dead inside. Su laughs casually. Relax. I'll leave here in better shape than you. Su frowns, confused by the response, but Su just smiles and says, working hard without spending a dime has always been my specialty. First contact with the team. He then meets his team leader, a man named Deer. Deer crosses his arms and looks at him with a stern expression. So, you're the newbie they sent here? Su shrugs. I guess so. I'm just here because I was assigned. Without warning, Deer grabs the collar of his shirt, pulling him closer. You think this is a playground? He says, his eyes cold. Do you think you have what it takes to be here? Su doesn't answer, simply staring back at him. You better not beg me to save you if you start mutating, Deer continues. If I see the slightest sign of it, I'll kill you on the spot. Su smirks and calmly responds. I'll keep that in mind. For him, this is nothing new. In the real world, people always try to scare the newbies. But what really intrigues him is the fact that Deer is an R-rank character in the game. This is what he looked like before awakening. Su thinks, noticing that, at this moment, Deer's legs are still normal. Before the tension can rise any further, another man enters the room and sighs. Deer, I've told you not to treat the newbies like that. We're short on staff. The man is introduced as Hedgehog, a veteran with 5 years of dungeon clearing experience. Deer clicks his tongue, clearly irritated. Whatever. I just hope he doesn't mess things up. He then turns to the group and gives his instructions. We have 4 hours to clear 5 locations. No time to waste. Su watches Deer and thinks, this guy's much tougher than he was in the game. Hedgehog notices and pats him on the shoulder. Don't mind him. He may seem tough on the outside, but he's a good guy deep down. Su gives a nonchalant hum in response, not paying much attention. The first dungeon. The first location they need to clear is a junkyard. As soon as they arrive, everyone complains about the terrible smell. No matter how many times I come here, I never get used to this stench, one of the workers says. Deer ignores the complaints and says, I'm opening the entrance. Get ready. He activates the access card and the dungeon door opens. What they see on the other side is simply disgusting. The place is covered in filth, a complete mess of waste and magical residue. Deer gives the command. Everyone, position yourselves. Inside the dungeon, there are low-level monsters known as contaminated slimes, creatures that feed on trash and residual mana. Su quickly assesses the situation and starts explaining to himself. The core of mana-contaminated clearing is eliminating these slimes. They're weak but troublesome. If you cut them in half, they just multiply. The only way to truly kill them is by destroying the small mana core inside their bodies. As they begin to fight them, the workers quickly realize the problem. How the hell are we supposed to find these cores in the middle of all this mess? Someone shouts, frustrated. Su takes a deep breath, steps forward and says, get out of the way. Before they can react, he rushes toward the slimes, holding nothing but a shovel. He leaps into the air, preparing to strike. If this goes south, don't blame me. He shouts to his teammates. With a precise swing, he drives the shovel directly between the legs of one of the slimes, hitting the mana core dead center and destroying it instantly. The other workers stare in shock. Hedgehog's eyes widen. He's killing the slimes way too fast. Deer also watches, intrigued. Meanwhile, Su just smiles. This is perfect. He continues to move forward, destroying the cores one by one before the slimes can multiply. And the most impressive part? He's doing all of this with nothing but a shovel without needing a real weapon. The other workers watch in disbelief as he moves rapidly across the battlefield, crushing slimes as if it's the easiest thing in the world. Is this really possible? One of the workers exclaims. Su answers with a confident smile. Of course it is. Suddenly the scene cuts to a flashback from 2 days ago. We see Su crawling on the ground as if searching for something. The curious detail? He's in the middle of a children's playground. Su looks around and murmurs to himself. It must be around here somewhere. After a few seconds of searching, his eyes finally spot what he's looking for. Found it. He crouches down and picks up a coin from the ground. The moment he holds it in his hand, An invisible notification seems to appear in his mind. Trait acquired, treasure hunter. A wide grin spreads across his face. Got it? This is the most important trait for Warrior Kim. Excited, he starts spinning in place, celebrating his achievement while holding the coin like a trophy. Nearby, a mother watching the scene covers her child's eyes and sighs. Just think happy thoughts. Junsu doesn't care about the strange looks and continues on his journey to acquire more essential traits. The price of evolution. He learns some fundamental rules while hunting for important traits. Cut to a less glamorous scene. Junsu is vomiting into a trash can, his face completely wrecked. That went too far, he groans. The truth is, to acquire a specific trait, he put himself in the middle of Asmongold's room, or at least something as disgusting as it. The notification appears once again. Trait acquired, contamination resistance. Junsu wipes his mouth, panting. That was the hardest one so far. The logic for acquiring traits in this world works exactly like in the game. If you meet the conditions, it's yours. He opens the mental menu and reviews his abilities, explaining to himself that it's possible to equip up to 6 traits at once, and that he can switch between them at will. Now, thanks to Treasure Hunter, he can see the mana cores inside the slimes, which explains why he's able to eliminate them so easily, even the giant ones. However, another slime is attacking his team, shooting a barrage of sticky slime. Deer gives an urgent warning. Don't let that stuff touch you. But Junsu simply walks through the toxic substance without hesitation. Finally, all this work paid off, he comments, satisfied. Thanks to contamination resistance, he feels no side effects from the slime. I personally wouldn't stick my tongue out in this situation. End of shift. The scene cuts to the bus on the way back home. Junsu leans against the window, exhausted. Even with all these traits helping me, working all day is still draining. Hedgehog smiles and comments. But thanks to you, we finished early today. It was incredible seeing all of that up close. He pauses and asks curiously, are you hoping to awaken like Deer? Junsu laughs. No way. I only know how to use a shovel. Military training to blame. Hedgehog whistles. Impressive. As they talk, something strange happens. Small horns begin to grow from Hedgehog's head. Junsu furrows his brow. Your mutations are getting worse. You've been exposed to too much contaminated mana. He observes his colleague more closely. You don't look so good. You should rest for a bit. Hedgehog just shrugs and lets out a bitter laugh. I'd rather mutate than face the debt collectors. Junsu sighs, understanding his situation better. Now it makes sense why you wanted this job. Not exactly the kind of position people queue up for. 4 days later. A time skip brings us 4 days forward. The work finally comes to an end, but everyone is exhausted. We're done, someone murmurs. The team members are wrecked after days of non-stop dungeon clearing. On the other side, a worker is vomiting uncontrollably, almost doubled over. Junsu immediately recognizes him. Hedgehog. I told you not to push yourself so hard. Deer approaches and pats Junsu on the shoulder. The only reason you're still in One Piece is because you're young. Never thought you'd do your part properly, but good job. Junsu gives a faint smile. It was thanks to everyone. But deep down he knows the truth. He only managed to do well because of his traits. He watches Deer, noticing that he's holding up surprisingly well against the exhaustion. For someone at our rank, he's holding strong. Before they can continue talking, a desperate scream echoes through the area. Junsu turns to find Hedgehog. Something is terribly wrong. A dark aura begins to form around him. His colleagues look horrified. What's happening to his spine? Deer runs over, his expression turning serious. Hedgehog. Hang in there. Junsu understands everything in that instant. Hedgehog is mutating. Deer tries to hold his friend back. Hold on. We need to get out of here. But it's too late. The mutation consumes Hedgehog completely, and his body explodes into pure energy, creating chaos around them. Junsu feels the impact and murmurs. Shit. Now this is serious. The battle begins. Hedgehog has lost all trace of his humanity. His silhouette now resembles that of a giant porcupine, and his foaming mouth makes him look like a rabid dog. Junsu watches the creature and immediately concludes. He's gone. There's nothing left of Hedgehog in there. If they don't defeat him, no one will walk out of here alive. But there's a problem. All the traits Junsu has acquired so far are specialized for monster cleaning. None of them are useful for combat. He struggles to find a way out, but nothing useful comes to mind. The first attack comes directly at him. Junsu has no time to react. The strike hits him square in the face, sending him flying like a ragdoll into a wall. He crashes to the ground, spitting blood. The power difference, it's absurd. A new notification appears. Trait acquired, endurance. He smiles faintly, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. It's still too early to give up. If he wants to survive, he needs to act now. He quickly opens the menu and starts switching his traits. I need something that will actually help. He selects strength, which will increase his physical power. Mana heart, which will allow him to control his magical energy. And endurance to reduce the damage he takes. Let's see what I can really do. The counterattack begins. Junsu finishes selecting his traits. Mana absorption allows him to absorb magical energy directly from the environment. Deep breathing accelerates his mana regeneration, ensuring a steady flow of energy. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle. Corruption resistance. Now that his traits are set up, he's much better prepared for combat. Hedgehog charges at him, screaming as Junsu activates strength, multiplying his physical power by 10. He swings his shovel back and roars, spinning his body with full force before delivering a crushing blow. The impact hits Hedgehog square on, launching him into the air. Junsu feels a flicker of hope. This is working. I can really win this. But then, in midair, Hedgehog starts spinning violently, turning into a deadly ball. Junsu's eyes widen. That should be illegal. Hedgehog launches himself at Junsu like a projectile, but at the last second he crashes into a rock, losing control and flying back up. Junsu yells, completely confused. What am I supposed to do in this situation? He doesn't have time to react. The attack hits him full force, smashing him brutally into the ground. Hedgehog pulls away, laughing, but then his eyes widen as he notices something. From the rubble, Junsu leaps out, completely unharmed. Thanks to endurance, his resistance to damage was multiplied tenfold. He winces in pain, groaning. Even with endurance, this still hurts like hell. But he has no choice. If he stops now, he'll die. He steels himself, clenching his fists. With no other option, he launches into an unrelenting assault. Blow after blow, Junsu unloads a barrage of punches at Hedgehog, refusing to retreat. But then one of the spikes on Hedgehog's back curls backward and shoots out like a missile. Junsu dodges at the last second, but before he can react, a swarm of spikes is launched at him, piercing his body and embedding themselves in his flesh. He is thrown to the ground, completely covered in blood. But he refuses to give up. Junsu forces his body up, breathing heavily. Just a little more. He charges at Hedgehog again, preparing for another punch. But then, blood explodes into the air. Junsu feels something violently ripped from his body. His mind tries to process what just happened. His hand. His hand has been obliterated. His eyes widen in complete shock. His senses still can't understand how this happened. But before he can react, Hedgehog fires another spike. This time, his mind registers what's happening, but it's too late. His entire arm is torn off. The pain strikes him like an electric shock. Junsu lets out a scream of pure desperation. But Hedgehog doesn't stop. He clenches his fists, preparing a final crushing blow. Junsu closes his eyes, gasping. This is exactly what I expected. Hedgehog lands the blow. The ground shakes violently as the impact hits where Junsu had been lying. The price of victory. A flashback unfolds in his mind. He remembers when he used to play this game just as a mobile game. Back then, everything felt easy. All he had to do was press a single button to defeat monsters. He never stopped to think about what the character felt. He pushed it to the limit over and over under the guise of efficient training. But now he finally understands. He understands the pain. He understands the suffering required to earn even a mediocre trait. And above all, he understands that there is no victory without sacrifice. When Hedgehog looks down, he realizes something is wrong. Junsu blocked the attack. His arm regenerated. Before Hedgehog can react, Junsu rushes at him with lightning speed. His fist connects with the creature's face, and the impact is devastating. Hedgehog is thrown away, sliding across the ground, incapacitated. Junsu exhales deeply, gritting his teeth. There is no victory without a price to pay. He looks at himself. His muscles are pulsating and growing uncontrollably. His body has been pushed to its absolute limit. A notification appears in his mind. Trait acquired, mutant muscles. Junsu smiles despite the pain. The real fight is just beginning. The awakening of the monster. Junsu's body is still covered in spikes. Hedgehog is thrown against a wall and Junsu grins to himself. The reason he had recklessly charged at him with all those attacks was for the trait. By pushing his limits with mana heart and strength, he knew he could gain something greater. And now they merge, activating his new trait, mutant muscles. Hedgehog charges at him again without hesitation. But Junsu stands his ground. Everything I've done so far was for this moment. Hedgehog throws a punch. Junsu easily blocks it. Then he starts to laugh. This doesn't work anymore. Go ahead, hit me again. Hedgehog snarls and then his fist deforms, sprouting sharp spikes. He lunges forward, slamming the punch directly into Junsu's chest. The impact is brutal. Junsu is thrown to the ground, his body pierced from all sides. It seems like he won't get up from this. But then, his body begins to regenerate. His organs rebuild. But something feels off. The regeneration is not just healing him, it's transforming him. Hedgehog watches, confused, as Junsu unlocks a new trait, mutant body. His arms grow, his structure expands, and his physique now matches Hedgehog's. Junsu smiles. Thanks, Hedgehog. I needed this. All of this happened because of you. He moves forward without hesitation. Hedgehog howls and charges straight at him. Neither of them backs down. What follows is a battle of pure brute force. Punch after punch, they exchange blows evenly matched. The monster battle. Nearby, Deer stirs. Dazed, he lifts his head. What the hell is all that noise? His blurry vision clears, and he freezes. A monstrous battle unfolds before him, something straight out of a kaiju movie. His eyes lock on Junsu. Wait, that's Warrior Kim? Deer can't believe what he's seeing. A normal human can't fight a mutant on equal terms, can they? Junsu and Hedgehog trade powerful punches at the same time, and both are thrown back, crashing to the ground simultaneously. Junsu grits his teeth, breathing deeply. This isn't as easy as I thought. Physically, he's now the same size as Hedgehog. But if this keeps going, he'll end up at a disadvantage. The breaking point. Hedgehog lets out a deafening scream. Junsu narrows his eyes. This is dangerous, but I have no choice. He activates corruption resistance, a trait that's helped him before. And then, he deletes it. Deer is shocked. What? He just erased a skill. Junsu's body shakes violently. And then, he starts transforming again. His skin darkens, twisting and stretching, his muscles expanding uncontrollably. He fights to keep his sanity, but the process has already begun. Junsu is undergoing a full monsterification. The primal roar. His skin turns a deep red. His body grows even larger, becoming colossal. Then, he lets out a primal, deep and terrifying roar. The sound shakes the air, a fearsome bellow that freezes Hedgehog in terror. For the first time, Hedgehog hesitates. Above Junsu's mutated mouth, a magic circle begins to glow. And then, a burst of pure energy is unleashed. The attack hits Hedgehog squarely, sending him flying far, far away. What the hell was that? Deer watches in pure shock. What the hell was that? He looks up, and freezes. A monstrous, gigantic and deformed version of Junsu glares down at him. Deer feels a chill run down his spine. He really turned into a mutant? How is this possible? But for Junsu, it's just another trait. New trait acquired, mutant. Deer swallows hard, his instincts screaming at him to flee immediately. Holy shit. He begins to crawl away from Junsu, panic taking over. Then suddenly, Junsu extends his hand toward him. Deer shuts his eyes tightly, bracing for the worst. But instead of a fatal blow, he hears coughing and groaning in pain. His eyes open. Junsu is standing, panting. And just like that, he's human again. The final sacrifice. Then Junsu collapses face first into the ground, muttering that he made it. We learn that corruption resistance is the last line of defense. If you're possessed by the mutant form and mutant muscles, and you erase the resistance, you turn into a full mutant. The common belief is that once transformed, you can never go back to normal, but Junsu knew otherwise. He needed this, and he was sure he could change the trait back while still thinking clearly, even if only for a second. That's why, even though his body was disintegrating and rebuilding repeatedly, and the pain was unbearable, he kept fighting for his sanity, allowing him to swap corruption resistance for the mutant trait. The end of the battle. The scene widens, showing an aerial view of the area where the cleanup is happening, and Junsu is exhausted. He says it felt like every muscle and bone in his body was moving, and he never wants to go through that again. Struggling, he gets up, stumbling toward Hedgehog's body. A purple orb leaves Hedgehog's mouth. Junsu grabs it, and it's revealed to be a level 1 monocore. He starts to smile sarcastically, saying it was worth it. Soon he starts dancing, joking that clearing the field is really profitable. Deer approaches and asks if he's alright, commenting on his mutant transformation and asking what happened. Junsu replies that it would be annoying if strange rumors spread, so he just says he kinda bet he could turn back and got really lucky. Deer is surprised, saying it was an insane risk, and Junsu hands him some level 0 monocores since he now has a level 1 monocore. Junsu says he wants to head back now, breathe some fresh air, and everyone is surprised since he saved their lives and even gave monocores, hoping they'll keep his secret. But Deer looks at him with suspicion. Back at Seonsu's building, we see him starting to flatter Junsu heavily. Junsu wonders what all this flattery is about. Seonsu responds that he should have said something if he were a superhuman, so they could have given him proper work instead. Now Junsu understands why all the praise. In the world of arcane soul, a superhuman awakens a skill that grants them powerful mana. In a world like this, where strength equals power and authority, superhumans are practically the nobility. But it makes sense for Seonsu to think this way since it takes a superhuman to defeat mutants. Though in Junsu's case, it's just a game design flaw since he can acquire traits. Seonsu puts his hand in his pocket and says he should pay Junsu for the cleanup. Junsu responds that would be nice, trying to stay calm, but inwardly he has that mischievous smile, thinking he'll let Seonsu think he's a superhuman for now. Seonsu pulls out a mountain of cash from his pocket and says that they cleaned 5 regions, and that they get 20% of the total fee, which amounts to 50 million wons. If they split it among everyone in the group, Junsu should receive 5 million, but this time they'll do it differently. Seonsu places all the money on the table and says they'll only keep 5% of his share and will even give him a bonus of 12 million. Junsu's smile reaches a whole new level now, with his tongue even turning into a heart. He exits the room singing, and someone comments that he seems to be in a great mood, while the other says he must have been well paid. Junsu confirms, saying yes, since they finished the job, and acknowledges the man as someone he's worked with. The man explains that he's here because he wants to ask a favor. Junsu asks what he means by that, and the man reveals that his wife is sick and asks if he can lend him some money. He apologizes for asking since they don't know each other. Junsu responds that it's not a good idea to help someone when you know nothing about them, because they could end up stabbing you in the back, and it's hard enough to stay afloat right now. Junsu takes the man's hand, which is pleading, and tells him that he's much older than Junsu, so he doesn't need to do this. Although it's not much, he can use it and hands over many level 0 monocores to the man. Junsu says he feels too bad to ignore him. What a conversation, huh? The twist. Later that night, we hear the man laughing, calling Junsu an idiot, saying he pretended to be poor, but gave him so many monocores. He's boasting to Deer. Deer replies that the man must be new to this kind of thing, and the man says he would have given more if Junsu had said his son was sick too. And he complains that what's annoying is that Junsu was paid more than everyone but gave such a tiny part, along with that superhuman talk about the profit split. Deer sighs, saying that Junsu isn't a superhuman and that it's better they teach him a lesson. The beggar asks if Deer has any ideas, and Deer smiles, saying that idiot probably has some strange skill. While Junsu is happily helping the poor, Deer says that since they know his secret, they can teach him a lesson about how truly scary the world can be. The scene shifts to a luxury resort, where we see Junsu through a window, receiving a massage. He comments, saying that money is really wonderful. He never imagined he'd see the day he could get a massage in a place like this, and being in the game is so much better than reality. The masseuse presses hard on his arm, and Junsu mentions he spent 3 whole days resting at the hotel but still feels pain. From now on, he'll have to think twice before using any mutant-related traits. Changing traits isn't as all-powerful as he thought. His body changes depending on the traits, and the intensity of the side effects increases as his body changes. The problem now is survival after limiting the use of traits. He looks out the window and recognizes a few people, saying that's the Iron Fist gang, while we see them all by the pool. He explains that Arcane Soul is ruled by local gangs, not the law. That's natural since there are so many monsters around, and people have to rely on superhumans. He says he's managed to survive so far, but it would be foolish to rely only on his traits in such a dangerous place. He starts to smile, saying that in the end, it all comes down to being overloaded with equipment. He goes to a miscellaneous goods store, and a woman asks if he's there to sell things. He says yes and mentions he has some monster byproducts. She looks at his clothes and warns that they don't buy level 0 monocores since he's not dressed well. He replies that he already knew that. He pulls something out of his bag and says that this is what he would like to sell, revealing a blue monocore, which surprises her. She asks if it's a level 2 monocore, and he confirms, telling her to take a good look at it. He comments that it's nice to see she's surprised. He's really happy he managed to get a level 2 monocore, and the effort at the hotel was worth it. If he can sell it for the highest price, this will be the right path. He asks if she sells weapons and armor. She replies that she does and lets him into the back area. As he enters, he's surprised, saying that it looks like she has everything back there. He thinks the government should start keeping an eye on this woman since all the essential game items are there as well. She tells him to make himself comfortable. He responds affirmatively and then begins to get excited. He says that now is the time to get properly equipped. He starts putting various weapons into his backpack and says that now that he has weapons, it finally feels like he's playing Arcane Soul. Then he hears a woman calling for him and turns around. She asks almost casually if he's a mercenary, saying she needs help. He replies that he's not a mercenary and suggests she should look for someone else, but she pulls out a little money, explaining that she's on a business trip and that the Iron Fist gang scared her. She asks if he could protect her until she reaches her lodging. He realizes she's trying to offer him at least 500,000 to be her bodyguard, and wonders if he should accept now that he's well equipped. He places a hand on her shoulder, saying that he can't ignore a lady in distress, and tells her it's time to go, looking ready for the situation. They start walking through some alleyways and she says they're almost there. He wonders why she's staying in such a shady place, saying that, forget about people, there isn't even an ant around there. She quickly dashes around a corner and when he turns, all he sees is darkness. She says they're nearly there and urges him to hurry. He replies that it's too dark and he can't see anything. Then his eyes begin to glow yellow as he acquires the night vision trait, and says that now he can see, but he didn't plan for this. In her hands there's a pistol aimed directly at him, and she remarks that he's a lot more cautious than she expected. He wonders who she is and if all of this was a trap, only for him to turn around and see Deer, who laughs and asks where he thinks he's going. Deer says it's good to see him again like this, asking if he agrees. Joe and Sue asks what he did to deserve this and Deer responds that he didn't do anything, he just looks stupid. There's no other reason, calling him naive. Joe and Sue lets his weapons drop, immediately rushing to knock the woman down. Deer asks why he would start a conversation just to run away. He tells the woman to shoot him and she fires her gun directly at him, hitting him in the back. He starts falling down the stairs. Then Deer asks, "What the hell?" saying she should have shot him in the leg, not the chest. She responds that it's better than him running away. Deer says, "Damn, I think he's dead. Honestly, I think the guy can just get up, he looks fine." The woman mentions that someone might want to buy his body since he came back from being a mutant. The beggar says it's time to loot his gear now. When Deer looks down again, he says there's no way and they should do this first, only to find that Joe and Sue's body has disappeared. They all start wondering where the hell he went, growing uneasy. The street lamp breaks and the beggar is hit in the neck. The rest of them start panicking, wondering what's happening, and Deer says there's no way he's still alive. Joe and Sue says that he can't die at the hands of someone who repays kindness with betrayal, and it's a good thing he left the store after putting on the bulletproof vest. Thanks to that, he acquired the trait of playing dead after being shot. Deer looks around in panic, saying he can't see anything since the street lamp broke, wondering where Joe and Sue is. Joe and Sue suddenly appears behind him, saying he's right there. He says he saved his life, so now he's going to take it, landing a punch directly to Deer's face. Joe and Sue punches Deer in the face, sending blood flying everywhere. Deer falls to the ground but instantly gets back up, wiping his mouth. He stands up and kicks Joe and Sue, who dodges. Joe and Sue says he should be grateful for being saved in the first place, asking if Deer thinks trying to kill the person who saved his life is the right thing to do. As Deer is about to fall to the ground from the attack, Joe and Sue tells him to bite the curb and is about to land a kick when the woman shoots her gun at Joe and Sue, asking Deer if he's okay. She manages to hit Joe and Sue in the arm with a shot, and he says he was too careless. In Arcane Soul, the scariest thing isn't the monsters or mutants but the people. He was incredibly naive and trusted them too easily. He places his hand on his waistband and pulls out his weapon to avoid making the same mistake again. He shoots the gun out of the girl's hand and then shoots one of the men in the shoulder, telling them that's enough, as we see both of them on the ground, writhing in pain. Something bounces off the wall, and Joe and Sue turns, thinking he should kill Deer to stay safe, only for Deer to launch a surprise attack. Joe and Sue wasn't expecting that but manages to react just in time by blocking the kick, although he loses his weapon. We see that Deer's legs have now transformed, and he's awakened as a level 1 superhuman. Joe and Sue says the game is poorly made, explaining that the superhuman awakening is something all playable characters can undergo. It's considered the basic growth system in the game. According to the world of Arcane Soul, a level 1 superhuman is strong enough to threaten an ordinary civilian with an automatic rifle. Joe and Sue starts backing away to create distance, while Deer declares he will kill him, and now Joe and Sue has to deal with a superhuman with nothing but his body. Deer disappears instantly before Joe and Sue, and he wonders where the hell he went. We learn that Deer has two unique traits: stereoscopic movement and kick. Stereoscopic movement allows him to use his incredible leg elasticity to move freely in any direction he wants. In his case, he's running on wall. Joe and Sue looks up and sees him coming from above. He used stereoscopic movement to gain height and is now coming down with a kick, using both the momentum and the height. Joe and Sue says he needs to dodge this, and he rolls to the side, letting the ground get completely smashed. Deer is surprised and irritated that he dodged, preparing to attack again, saying that this time Joe and Sue won't be able to dodge. The impact happens and Deer starts to smile, thinking it's over. But Joe and Sue says, "Sorry, but I didn't plan on dodging." As we see, he blocked the kick with a weapon, calling him a mutt who doesn't know his place. He knew buying that extendable baton was a great idea. A few hours ago in the girl's store, he was wondering if a weapon would really be worth it. Since Warrior Kim is a warrior class character, even though he gets stronger, there's a limit to how effectively he can use a weapon. That's why he decided to buy a close combat weapon, which turned out to be nothing other than this extendable baton. Each character has weapons and traits that are more effective for their class. We see Deer's leg trembling, and Joe and Sue manages to push him back. To defeat Deer, he needed to use a close combat weapon and traits suited for a warrior like him. He swings the baton downward, hitting Deer and knocking him to the ground, then acquires a trait called Strike. This is a trait specific to the warrior class. He then starts spamming his attacks to acquire even more traits, using moves like a downward strike, uppercut, and even an advancing attack. He tries a side strike, though it's unclear if he gained a trait from that moment. Deer searches for an opening and as soon as he finds it, delivers a direct kick toward Joe and Sue. Joe and Sue hesitates, wondering whether to dodge or not, but decides he can't stop now after coming this far. He grits his teeth, saying that even if he has to break bones, he'll block the attack with his elbow, hitting Deer's leg. He tells himself he needs to keep attacking. The fight continues with blows exchanged one after the other. Then Joe and Sue acquires a trait called Combo and starts smiling, saying, "That's it." The best trait build for the warrior class at the early stages is combining strike and combo. He uses his left hand for punches and his right hand to swing the baton, taking down Deer like it's a cut scene. Deer begs him to stop as he begins to lose consciousness, but Joe and Sue throws the baton directly into Deer's chest, hitting him with the strike trait. Deer finally loses his strength and collapses to the ground. Joe and Sue shouts, saying that he succeeded and defeated an awakened one. His arms begin to burn, as though the air itself is searing his skin. He wonders what this sensation is as he looks at them. His whole body starts to ache as a red aura begins to swirl around him. He says he can feel something about to overflow inside him, thinking he knows what's happening. There's a brilliant explosion from where he stands, and now, with a golden aura surrounding his fingers, he says, "This is the day I learned the cruel truth of the world of arcane soul, and now I am awakened as a level 1 superhuman." Joe and Sue clenches his fist with excitement and starts shouting, saying that the time has finally come. He then pulls the fiercest face he's ever made, resembling Lloyd, and is so pumped up that he does a handstand, announcing that he's about to start taking low-interest loans and landing high-paying jobs. A man approaches him, asking what he thinks he's doing. When Joe and Sue turns around, he's shocked to see a giant, old man holding an enormous weapon. This man is Iron Fist Kim, the second basic character available in Arcane Soul after Warrior Kim. He's a reinforced soldier class character who specializes in firearms, primarily using his prosthetic arm to shoot. The issue is Iron Fist Kim is the feared leader of the Iron Fist gang, and since Joe and Sue fought within their territory, he's probably stirred up quite a mess. Iron Fist asks if Joe and Sue checked where he was before all of this. Joe and Sue responds that he was caught off guard and couldn't just stand there and not fight back. Iron Fist unlocks his weapon, saying this means they're more terrifying than his own gang. Joe and Sue is taken aback, saying that if he fights under these conditions, he'll die for nothing. Iron Fist presses the weapon directly to Joe and Sue's chest, stating that he made a terrible choice and will show him what happens when someone messes with his territory. Joe and Sue pauses for a moment, then asks if that's the best he's got, mentioning that Iron Fist forgot something. Joe and Sue grabs the weapon and puts his finger on the trigger. He shoots himself in the chest, saying that he's not the type to die so easily. Iron Fist is stunned, seeing the guy just kill himself with his own weapon, calling him a psychopath for pulling the trigger on himself. Joe and Sue starts laughing, asking if that's all, saying it was easy. We see that he acquired the regeneration trait. Iron Fist laughs, calling his ability interesting. Joe and Sue explains that the upgraded version of Wound Recovery is regeneration, and it can only be obtained when you become a level 1 superhuman. He warns Iron Fist that it will be the end for them if they start underestimating him. He realizes he'll need to bluff his way out of this. He points to the triple homicide case behind him, saying that, as they can see, he didn't survive by chance and that he doesn't care who they are. If they mess with Warrior Kim, they'd better be prepared. Iron Fist laughs, asking if that's his name, saying he likes his audacity, but he'll let him go this time. However, now Jo In-soo owes him a favor. He puts a hand on Jo In-soo's shoulder, saying that he surely knows what he means. Jo In-soo says he'll remember this, wondering if maybe Iron Fist recognized him. Iron Fist then extends his hand, suggesting that they might work together on a job next time. When Jo In-soo looks at her hand, he thinks that Iron Fist is not the type of person who would betray him. In that case, it wouldn't be bad to form a connection here. He says it's a deal as they shake hands, telling her he'll see her next time. The scene then shifts to the superhuman tower in Jamsil, where Jo In-soo says he had no idea when he first saw this place in the game, but now he realizes that it's really impressive, completely different from anything he's seen before. A woman then catches his attention, thanking him for visiting the tower and asking how she can assist him. The guy is stunned by her beauty and mentions that she looks familiar, wondering if she's an NPC. She tells him that if he's there for certification, he needs to head to the machine to measure his mana and trait circuits. He thanks her and starts walking towards it, thinking that he didn't even ask for help, but she guided him anyway. It just shows how much of a novice he must look. He thinks that once he gets his certification, he'll truly start his life in Arcane Soul. Suddenly he hears a loud noise that startles him. When everyone tells him to look at the ceiling, saying the saint has arrived, he looks up and sees a bright light descending from an airborne ship. As the light appears right in front of him, we see some enchanting text spread across, while people are teleported. Jo In-soo is shocked, recognizing it as the Old Father's order and wondering why a boss monster is there. People begin praying, saying it's an honor to be in her presence. But Jo In-soo remembers that, since he's still in the tutorial timeline, she's a saint and not a boss monster. As the story progresses, it's revealed that the order is actually a cult disguised as a religion, and she is a complete psychopath. While people continue to praise the saint, they mention that she must be there for a level-up renewal. She then starts releasing a powerful aura, so strong that it knocks people down, with a golden light pulsing around her. Jo In-soo looks away, saying that it's a rather flashy way to do things, and that it's kind of too noisy. As the machine begins reading her mana, it starts collecting her energy until it completely disappears, leaving everyone in suspense, wondering what she'll get. We then see that she is 27 years old, a priestess class with mana level 8 and a 6-layer circuit. They can't believe she's only level 8. She smiles as they say she has up to 6 traits, which the layered circuits represent. But Jo In-soo has a different opinion. He's sweating nervously, saying that it's not the time to celebrate. A level 8 superhuman can be compared to an aircraft carrier, and she's a walking national powerhouse. Why are strong women always crazy? But even if he tried to warn them, they would just treat him like a madman and stone him to death as if it were the Middle Ages. For now, he decides to just measure his mana. It would draw too much attention if he had 6 traits, so he'll lower it to 3. The saint suddenly turns, sensing something. When her men ask what's going on, she says that she's found something that caught her attention. She appears right behind Jo In-soo, saying that he has an interesting ability. He says, "Damn," surprised, and then repeats what she just said, asking if she really noticed that he swapped his traits. He freezes for a second as the window remains open. Everyone wonders why the saint is talking to him, saying he looks like a normal guy. She then takes his hands, asking what his name is. He says his name is Warrior Kim and comments that the only reason a priest would ask someone's name in Arcane Soul is. Before he finishes his thought, he's interrupted as she declares that she represents the Old Father's order and baptizes him. Since the Old Father always desires powers like his, she tells him that he must submit and find peace in this hellish world, as the enchantment table begins moving across his arm. Everyone around him envies the fact that he's being baptized, especially because she is the Old Father's first daughter. Jo In-soo, however, has a different perspective. He's extremely nervous, thinking that if he's baptized and gains the baptism trait, he will have no choice but to become a paladin of the order. However, the Old Father's order loses to major figures in Arcane Soul during the war with South Korea, and this figure is none other than the Celestial Demon. As she continues with the baptism, he rips her hand off of him, saying it feels like being forced to invest in a stock that's about to crash. He kneels, refusing the baptism. We see her eyes turn completely psychopathic as she says that he must not have heard her correctly. He responds saying he's very serious despite being a little exhausted. She starts to control her anger, saying that it's anyone's right to serve or refuse. However, the old father has already set his eyes on him. She places her hand on his shoulder, warning him not to forget that a powerful divine energy is already rooted inside him, and that if he can't overcome such a small power, his fragile free will won't mean anything in the end. Then he begins to be enveloped by a yellow flame as he starts screaming in front of everyone. They question how someone like him can refuse the baptism, asking if he isn't religious or something. We see that he's being affected by divine fever, and that he will suffer a burning, endless pain as punishment for refusing the baptism. He was prepared for this, but it still hurts like hell, his whole body burning. This is one of the strongest debuffs in the entire game. The effect causes continuous, searing pain, preventing the person from continuing their normal life. The only way to get rid of it is to go to a temple and be baptized. He refused the baptism thinking about the future, but it seems he might die right here as we see his eyes rolling back. He loses consciousness until someone splashes water on his face, waking him up again. He wonders who it is, only to see the woman from before asking if he's okay. She seems genuinely concerned. He says that no one helps someone affected by divine fever because they fear the negativity will spread to them, and he's grateful that she took the risk to help him. He sits up again, saying that he'll endure a little longer. As he enters a lotus position, he gains a trait called divine resistance. We see that he's starting to build a resistance to the flames. He says he didn't refuse the baptism recklessly either, and that the debuff gets stronger depending on the total mana of the target. Since he's still level 1, the debuff is weaker in comparison, so there are some solutions. The first is to acquire the trait, which he just did, and now he'll focus more mana within himself. It's unclear whether he unlocked his traits or activated mana absorption. Still, he starts screaming in pain, while the woman continues to pour bottles of water over him, telling him that he'll make it. This immediately cools his body, and he says it feels like life-giving water. He needs to focus on this contrasting sensation between the fire and the water. As he begins to balance them inside him, it feels as though time stops. The burning pain and the sensation of cold begin to merge into one, while he uses the mana within him to extinguish the fire. When he opens his eyes, a powerful blue light starts emanating from him. It even blinds the poor girl. We then see that he has gained another trait called mana barrier, as the flames can no longer harm him. He smiles, saying that this is the common level 1 skill that a defender warrior should acquire. The woman asks if he's okay, and he replies that he's fine now, thanks to her. But everyone is in disbelief that he managed to overcome the divine fever, asking if that's really possible. Of course, he hasn't fully overcome it, and this is just a temporary measure against the fever, using the barrier. But at least he's free from the burning pain, and the black flame even makes him look cool. Now it's his turn to measure his mana as he steps onto the magical device. He begins to charge up, rising higher and higher. He smiles, awaiting the measurement, and we see that the device reports he is level 1 but has a 6-layer circuit. They can't believe he has 6 traits, saying this is the birth of a super newbie. It must be why the holy figure had her eyes on him. Joe and Sue says that he has attracted a lot of attention, and that his goal is to be the overpowered protagonist, but hidden in the shadows. The woman then congratulates him, saying she's never seen anyone start with a 6-layer circuit and that they can now issue his license. They move to another part of the tower, where she places it on the table, congratulating him for being officially certified as a superhuman. He starts crying tears of joy, saying that he worked so hard to achieve this, and she says she'll explain all the privileges. He replies that he doesn't need an explanation as he already knows everything. He begins to list the privileges, and she's surprised at how well he knows them. He says that he's addicted to games, or rather, a doctor in superhumanology. He then warns her that he doesn't like to waste time. While we see a crowd watching them, he asks if there's a way to leave discreetly. She laughs, saying of course she's already prepared a way. We see him blush as she stands up, asking him to follow her, smiling. They both appear cloaked, and he thanks her for taking such good care of him. She even provided him with a secret passage, along with a cloak, saying that it was nothing as everyone should help each other in the end. Just by wearing the cloak he acquires the stealth trait. The guy is broken. The woman then points to the exit, saying that he just needs to walk there as she can only guide him to that point due to the rules. He bows, saying that this is more than enough and thanks her for everything she did. She wishes him a good journey back. As he watches her walk away, he says he didn't know such a kind person existed in Arcane Soul. She's also beautiful, and once he becomes stronger, he'll have to repay the favor. Then he wonders what her name is. When he looks at the business card, he's completely incredulous. We see that her name is Beck Soren. He says this is the name of one of the 3 strongest warriors in the SSR class in the game. She's a berserker and has always had a rather intimidating appearance. He finds it strange that her face looks familiar and never would have imagined she once had such a calm demeanor. He wonders what happened to her between then and now. The scene shifts to him working as he cuts a slime in half. He says that he takes back everything he said about being cool as a superhuman, mentioning that he's been cleaning these monsters for a whole week and is about to die from exhaustion. Me too, man, me too. He then sits down, sighing, saying he's only finished 1 cave, but he's so tired that he can't go on. His efficiency is terrible. All of this happened because he focused his traits on maintaining the mana barrier. If he could customize them to specialize more in monster cleaning, he'd have been done hours ago, but now he can't do any other work because of that damn debuff. He needs a rare potion called Nectar to get rid of the divine fever, but it's so expensive that this monster cleaning job isn't worth it, and he starts feeling incredibly depressed. His phone starts ringing and we see it's none other than Seonsu. He wonders how many times this guy is going to call him, saying that Seonsu is persistent. Before he can reject the call, thinking he's tired of this guy, an idea pops into his head, and he starts grinning wickedly. At Seonsu's agency, he's thrilled to see him and says he can't believe he managed to overcome the divine fever without being baptized, starting to turn into a big brown noser. Junsu says that things have ended like this and asks if Seonsu has found the job he requested. Seonsu tells him not to even mention it, saying it was so difficult because Nectar is a medicine that can only be obtained through level 5 or higher requests. Junsu says that if he hasn't gotten the nectar, he'll leave, but Seonsu tells him to wait, explaining that it involves their exclusive contract, and he needs to secure it at all costs. And of course he did. Junsu starts smiling, saying that since Seonsu is so desperate for a superhuman contract, he knew he would do anything to ensure the request was fulfilled. He then sits back asking what the content of the request is. As Seonsu hands him the paper, he asks if Junsu has heard of security number 1. Junsu says this is the first time he's hearing about it, wondering if it's a security company. Seonsu explains that it's a private military company, one of the top 10 in the sector. The CEO and the vice CEO are a married couple, both come from traditional martial arts families, which makes their foundation very solid. Junsu asks what they might be lacking that would require them to make such a request. Seonsu replies that the issue is their son. He's already over 20, but still hasn't awakened as a superhuman. Junsu finds this surprising, given that both parents come from martial arts families. Seonsu says the rumor is that he's already accumulated level 8 mana, but simply can't awaken, which is a mystery. Their condition was for a warrior-type superhuman, level 1 or higher. So, it seems to fit perfectly. Junsu then starts smiling, saying that he'll go see them right away. As he heads to their property, we see Seonsu's legs shaking uncontrollably. He says that they're quite busy as they aren't the type to be late. Junsu just looks around the house, commenting that it's very expensive. We hear a woman apologizing, saying she's very sorry for making them wait so long. The guy's about to have a heart attack. Finally, we are introduced to them. She says they are the clients. The husband's name is Seo Youngju, and the wife's name is Lee Miria. Seonsu bows, saying it's nothing, thanking them for the time they've spent with them. Junsu does the same, saying they must be superhumans of at least level 6, as both have a considerable amount of aura. Youngju sighs and says he can tell this one is weak just by looking at him. Miria tells him not to be like that, and if he's going to act that way he should go back to his room. He sits on the couch, saying he can't do that, and she says he's so stubborn before asking both Junsu and Seonsu to take a seat. They thank her, and Miria says that since they've come all the way here, it means they intend to accept their request. Junsu says that first he'd like to see the condition of their son, as there might be a special reason preventing his awakening. Youngju bangs his fist on the table, asking if he really thinks he'd share that with a novice like him, and he's absolutely furious. Miria tells him to calm down and apologizes, saying he gets worked up easily about anything concerning their son. She says this isn't something they can tell a stranger, but if he accepts the request, they'll call the son in and explain the situation. They're sure he's also desperately in need of the nectar, as they can tell the divine fever is affecting him. Junsu says that if it's a confidential matter, but they know exactly what he needs, it only makes him more certain that he will accept the request. He says he'll accept it and asks them to call the son in. While they do, he opens the door. He introduces himself as a Woojin. Junsu says it's a pleasure to meet him and shakes his hand, noting that he doesn't feel any mana coming from him. Then he notices something and tells the guy that his cloak is really cool. The guy responds that it's more than he deserves, but he always wears it with gratitude. Junsu says he imagines he needs it to seal his mana. The entire family is surprised and Junsu smiles, saying that the moment he saw the gloves he was sure of it. Although it's a matter involving a noble family, he deliberately set the conditions for a level 1 superhuman and used the nectar debuff to summon him. He was baptized under the order of the old father. The reason their son couldn't awaken is because he rejected the baptism and sealed his mana to avoid the divine fever. While they couldn't announce this publicly and were struggling with the situation, they must have heard the recent rumors about him overcoming the baptism. So they decided to seek him out. Wu Jin is extremely impressed and starts acting exaggeratedly, saying that no further explanation is needed. He almost thought Junsu was the protagonist of a detective novel. Junsu says that he's watched enough Detective Conan in the past and that there's nothing to fear, since he also knows the future. The moment he saw the photo, he understood everything because in the future, Wu Jin becomes the vanguard paladin of the old father's order. He rejected the baptism and resisted, but when his parents lost their power, he gave in and joined the order to help the family. Yongju then approaches, calling him sir and asking if there's any way for their son to avoid the baptism. We see everyone looking at him with puppy dog eyes. Junsu remarks that he was so arrogant just a moment ago, but now he's acting all polite, saying that of course there's a solution. He says that since he's spent 10,000 hours in Arcane Soul, it's obvious that he knows how to handle this. He places a hand on Wu Jin's shoulder, saying that he understands the pain he's feeling because he's been through it too, and that he'll get him out of this situation. Wu Jin begins to cry and hugs him, while Junsu says it doesn't matter whether she's a saint or not. She tried to pull him into some low-level cult, and now his future subordinate is by his side, showing yet another expression of loyalty. He then starts pushing Wu Jin away, saying that before they proceed, he'd like to add a condition. Yongju asks what he wants. Junsu says that since the difficulty of the request has increased, it means he should be entitled to something more. Miria agrees, saying it makes sense because now it's not just about awakening their son, but about overcoming the divine fever. They'll do whatever it takes if he can cure their son. Junsu says that as an additional condition, he'd like them to teach him the sword capable of breaking mountains. Both are surprised by this request. While Junsu smiles, Wu Jin looks scared. Seonsa strikes the "oh, I'm in danger" pose. It's not Yongju but Miria who steps forward, releasing a strong aura of murderous intent, saying that he surely understands what he just asked for. He looks up, startled, wondering what's up with her murderous aura. It's far more terrifying than her husband's. He realizes she would be furious because the sword capable of breaking mountains. He explains that people might doubt his decision to learn swordsmanship in the 21st century, but in Arcane Soul, it's a different story, where strength equals authority. As we see a woman slicing through a tank with a sword, he explains that a superhuman swordsman can easily destroy modern weapons, and high-level martial arts are traded for fighter jet squads. If a level 1 superhuman learns and continuously trains in the sword capable of breaking mountains, they can easily reach level 4, which is essentially a cheat code for the early game. He recalls that it was said that only elites could learn this technique, and he wonders if he has crossed the line. He tells her that he would only ask for this as an exchange if he truly completes the request. Wu Jin then calls her, which snaps her back to reality, and she stops releasing the murderous intent. She says it's fine, and if he succeeds she will give him a memory chip containing the sword, along with the nectar. Junsu is surprised that it actually worked, and he thanks her while once again showing his sinister smile. He thought she was going to kill him, but now he might be able to get the sword, which is great. She tells him that if he fails, both she and her husband will be genuinely disappointed, even angry. He responds that that won't happen, and that they should start as soon as possible. As we see them heading towards a warehouse, Miria says that a room with a mana focus circle and 200 intermediate grade mana potions have all been prepared, just as he requested. He says that should be more than enough, and that he would prefer to be alone with the patient during the treatment. She apologizes for what happened earlier, explaining that Wu Jin was forcibly baptized before he even had a chance to start school. He never got the chance to make friends, let alone go out as a family. He had to suffer being forced to stay in his room. It seems that she was being overly sensitive due to the situation, so she will trust him completely now. Junsu comments that everyone had to suffer because of the saint's trap, and Wu Jin tells his mother that it's okay. Junsu notes that in the game, Wu Jin ends up opposing his family, even though they were the reason he joined the order. It makes sense that he became so cold in the future, but he feels sorry for them. He says that he will succeed at any cost, and now that it's just the two of them they can begin. We see Woojin trembling and Junsu tells him to take it easy, asking what he's afraid of. Woojin replies that he thought Junsu was going to torture him, forcing him to awaken using electric shocks or something like that. Junsu asks what the hell they've done to him so far, and explains that the general treatment for curing divine fever is to drink nectar after awakening. However, since he had too much mana in his body, the divine fever was so severe that he couldn't awaken, and he failed. Junsu then tells him not to worry but to remember one thing. Everything he sees today is a secret. Junsu says he's about to begin. First, he needs to expand the mana barrier to its absolute limit. Then the barrier will weaken. As we see the divine fever starting to consume Woojin once more, he removes the caps from the healing potions, pouring them into his throat, saying that now is the time. Woojin is confused as the cycle repeats relentlessly, and he continues drinking the potions. He comments that it tastes awful. After several bottles fall to the floor, he finally acquires the drug addiction trait. The damage taken and mana consumption increase, but the effects of the drugs are amplified. He says that now, if he focuses on the mana shield with the drugs, he can level it up, transforming it into an area shield. After configuring the shield around him, he wipes his mouth, saying that the divine fever has been completely expelled from the barrier. Woojin says that was amazing, and Junsu responds that it's still too early to be impressed, asking him to take off the glove. Woojin is confused, asking if he heard correctly, and Junsu explains that he needs to push his hand through the barrier, and then he just needs to grab his hand. Woojin says that the two divine fevers will create a resonant reaction. Junsu begins to step out of the barrier while the divine fever starts to burn him again. He says that the pain will be bearable as he stays inside the barrier, and asks him not to question why, just follow the orders. Woojin's heart starts to race because it's the first time he's taking off the glove since he was baptized. He places his hand through the barrier and it starts to burn intensely. It's even more painful than Junsu's divine fever, even though it's only his hand. Junsu wonders how much mana this guy has in his body, to the point of being terrifying, but he grabs his hand because there's no other choice. Then he experiences one of the most unbearable pains he's ever faced, as if his entire body is burning. He screams in agony, saying it hurts much more than when he was originally baptized. Junsu's eyes start to roll back and he says it feels like his bones are being shattered into pieces. He bites his lip, saying that he needs to stay focused and endure it. Then he hears the notification of a new trait appearing, and he immediately jumps back into the barrier toward Woojin, and the two of them fall to the ground. Junsu starts to pant, and we see that he's still holding Woojin's arm, while Woojin acquires the damage absorption trait, meaning he can absorb damage from others. Junsu says that this was a success, and Woojin is staring at his hand, now gloveless, saying that he can't believe it's still bearable. Junsu says that everything was planned to go this way. Besides the barrier, he used damage absorption to take some of his divine fever for himself, which means his fever is severely weakened, and now it's the final stage. He hands a wooden sword to Woojin, saying that he can't stop and that he needs to attack him until he awakens. Woojin says he understands, and that it's time to use the swordsmanship he's been training since childhood. He then takes his stance and attacks Junsu, who we see getting hit in the forearms. While using the armor to block the attack, Woojin runs behind him, and Junsu just looks at his guards, armed with fear, since they're made of iron and were broken by a wooden sword. This means the situation is going to get bad. He acquires the protection trait and says that even with this trait, he'll be in a critical state if he's hit even once by these attacks. And to think that this is coming from a guy who hasn't even awakened yet is pretty terrifying. When Woojin begins to attack again, Junsu extends his hand, dodging the strike. He places his hand on Woojin's shoulder, spinning in the air, wondering what on earth they've taught this boy. He's struggling even to dodge the attacks. When he lands, he turns around and notices a small aura starting to leak from Woojin, and he's also acquired the evasion trait. Junsu smiles, saying that this means Woojin is about to awaken. As Woojin releases more aura than before, Junsu remarks that this is bad because the sword also starts to glow, and Woojin is now ranked SSR. It seems like he's unlocked a powerful trait, one with the sword, a state where the sword becomes the person themselves. That's an insanely powerful trait for a warrior class. But it's not the time to get excited as the guy is completely in a trance, firing a wave of aura directly at Junsu. He watches it approach and says that if he gets hit, he'll definitely be dead. Junsu says he needs to use all possible defensive traits and focus the barrier on his arms. With the help of the mana focus circle in the room, he might actually have a chance, and he begins using them together. The attack closes in and explodes, and the impact alone destroys the ground beneath him, sending out a powerful shockwave. We see a shield forming from the smoke as he acquires the mana shield trait. He says he's glad he managed to pull it off, and that when you combine mana barrier with protection, this is the result. He comments that he really almost died there. Woojin starts to stagger, which surprises Junsu as he watches the guy fall unconscious. Junsu asks how he can just lie there so peacefully after trying to kill him. He's relieved that Woojin is just sleeping since he was a bit worried he might be having a seizure. He probably just lost control due to the awakening. In the game, Woojin was a strong character with an SSR rank just like he is now. But because he awakened as a warrior instead of a paladin, he acquired the sword trait as his initial one. Junsu then picks him up, saying he doesn't know how this is going to change the story, but Woojin is a guy with privileges and immense strength. It's good that he now owes him a favor as he smiles again. This guy might just be a villain. We see Junsu lying on his bed, and they're extremely happy that he's truly overcome the divine fever to the point of bowing in gratitude to Junsu for everything. Junsu says it was nothing, and Seonsu once again becomes a sycophant, holding out a cup for him to drink. Miria gently pats Woojin's head, saying it's been so long since she's seen him sleep so peacefully and that she doesn't know how to repay this debt. Yeonju nods and she does the same. He says that, along with the promised nectar and memory chip, they would like to offer an additional success fee. Joansu replies that he doesn't have to, and the other man responds that he would like to give 1 billion wons, although this may seem small compared to what Joansu has done for them. Joansu nearly dies on the spot and forces a smile, saying that it would be painful for his heart to refuse, but of course he's actually overjoyed to hear this. That night, while he and Seonsu are on their way back, Seonsu says it was truly a lottery win. Joansu looks at the reward saying that it looks great. Seonsu asks if he's going to drink the nectar immediately, and Joansu says yes, since he has to do it anyway. He plans to take a break for a while. Seonsu says he understands, as Joansu doesn't want to attract attention from the order or anyone else who might hear about the rewards and try to pursue him. But it's a shame because if he refined the nectar and consumed it, it would significantly increase his mana. Joansu agrees, saying that if he refined it, his superhuman level would increase a lot instead of spending it on treating the divine fever. They head to a hotel, and when Joansu steps out, Seonsu says he'll see if he can find the necessary equipment to refine the nectar, so Joansu should hold on to the drink. Joansu says he'll think about it, but he's not thinking anything of it and he tears off the label. He decides to drink it as quickly as possible. He learned how cruel Arcane Soul can be during the incident with the deer, and he can't guarantee Seonsu won't betray him. He also has traits that can maximize the effect now, as he's a drug addict with mana absorption and potion dependency. These are just traits. He begins drinking the nectar and drops the bottle due to the pain he feels, describing it as if every fiber of his muscles were being dismantled and reassembled. He closes his eyes trying to focus, saying there's an incredible amount of mana inside him. His eyes begin to glow yellow as he shoots a brilliantly bright beam through the window. He's now reached level 2, but the divine fever still seems to be present. He says this is one of the best tier 1 traits in the entire game, and since it was added to his traits along with the mountain sword, he's relieved as he can now focus on training these two traits without any problems. His phone starts ringing and when he checks, it's Seonsu who says he has something to tell him. Joansu ignores it, saying he'll just train, but the phone keeps ringing several times until he answers, asking why the hell Seonsu is bombarding him with messages. He looks at the phone and sees that it's actually a strange message. He starts decoding the letters and reads between the lines, saying it's telling him to run from the Dagger Gang. He says he can't believe he found a secret message in the text and that the Dagger Gang is one of the rival gangs to the Iron Fist. If Seonsu had wanted to betray him, he would have called as usual to buy time. Considering that he sent the secret message, it must mean he was captured first, and it looks like the information was leaked while Seonsu was trying to prepare the equipment. Joansu starts to feel a little guilty but decides to ignore it since he got the nectar he needed, and everyone is responsible for their own life in Arcane Soul. Then the scene shifts to Seonsu screaming as loud as possible, and we see him sitting in a chair surrounded by 3 men. They say he's a stubborn man, and despite an entire night of interrogation, he still hasn't said anything about the superhuman rookie. Seonsu says he signed a contract because he trusted him, and he won't reveal anything no matter what they do to him. The man says he didn't want to resort to this but he had no choice. A man starts walking toward him menacingly, holding an axe, asking if he's going to use his right hand or left. Seonsu doesn't answer, and the man raises the axe, laughing, saying he doesn't care and that he's going to cut off Seonsu's right hand. But just before the axe comes down, an explosion happens behind them and they turn, wondering what it was. Then a man starts crawling forward, calling for his boss, saying that a madman is attacking them. It seems like he wasn't lying, as we see someone aiming and firing rocket launchers at their building. He says they're about to face the consequences of messing with him. He can't just let someone who keeps their promises in this cruel world of arcane soul be left alone. He pulls the trigger, saying that, with any luck, this will be a good lesson to show them that the war has just begun. The rocket strikes the side of the building, exploding violently and sending armed men rushing out in a panic. They look around frantically, trying to pinpoint the source of the shot, saying they need to find the shooter first. Joansu chuckles, commenting that, just as expected, they're spilling out of the building like a bunch of cockroaches. Even though the structure looks like a regular residential complex, he knows for a fact that they were all inside. This is the hideout of the Dagger Gang, a place he's cleared so many times that he's honestly sick of it. It's a complicated dungeon, made up of 6 different buildings. Since this mission is part of the tutorial, he can practically finish it with his eyes closed. He crouches down, then leaps from the rooftop, grinning as he says he's about to speedrun this thing. Nearby, in a narrow alley, a few gang members are patrolling, muttering that this must be the work of Iron Fist, since they're the only lunatics crazy enough to pull something like this. They confidently declare that once they find them, they'll wipe them out. Suddenly, one of them hears a noise coming from a dumpster and decides to check it out. His buddies warn him to be thorough. The man creeps forward, peering down the alley, trying to locate the source of the sound. He doesn't see anything. But in the blink of an eye, Joansu emerges from the shadows. Before the man can react, Joansu grabs his face with a crushing grip and slams him brutally into the nearest wall. Joansu laughs, saying the guy didn't even recognize him despite being right in front of his face. And that when it comes to infiltration, there's no better combo than playing dead and using stealth. With the henchmen stumbling around outside like fools, he takes the opportunity to slip into the main building. He lifts the lid of a dumpster and begins descending a hidden staircase, commenting that this is one of the gang's secret entrances. Moving swiftly and silently through the corridors, he takes pride in the fact that he's avoided combat so far. Pressing forward, he notes the gang's unusual obsession with hostages. He remembers that the boss's room is on the 5th floor, which means he still has a long way to go. Because of that, he decides to advance as stealthily as possible, making sure no one notices him. Suddenly, the building's loudspeaker crackles to life, blaring an urgent announcement. Enemy infiltrated the building. All members, arm yourselves and assemble at the rendezvous point immediately. Joansu stands before a door, murmuring to himself that he needs to make a decision. If he exits through here, he'll be in the lobby, which is the most efficient route. The central staircase leads directly upstairs. However, there's a problem. Now that the gang has detected an intruder, they've barricaded the lobby to create a defensive line. The moment he opens the door, he'll be shredded by gunfire. Even so, he decides to press forward. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he steps directly into the middle of the enemy formation. Without hesitation, he pulls a Gatling gun from his inventory and unleashes hell. Chaos erupts. The enemies panic, scrambling to retaliate, but the front line is obliterated under the relentless storm of bullets. The rear guards manage to recover and open fire on him. Joansu decides he's had enough of this game. He pulls the pin on a grenade and tosses it. The gangsters freeze, watching in horror as the grenade arcs through the air, before detonating right in their faces. Laughing, Joansu ducks back behind the door, muttering that stealth was never his thing. Then, lowering his gaze, he reveals a fistful of explosives, grinning as he says he knew one grenade wouldn't be enough. Without hesitation, he hurls 8 more into the room and slams the door shut. Screams of terror echo from the other side. Joansu simply smirks. "Hope you guys enjoy the show," he muses. Moments later, silence. Stepping back out, he surveys the scene. Bodies litter the ground. He wonders if he managed to wipe out the entire group in one go, but he knows better than to lower his guard. And sure enough, as if on cue, one of the enemies suddenly staggers to his feet, gun raised, screaming that Joansu is going to die. Joansu watches calmly. Then, at the very last moment, he sidesteps the shot. A notification pops into his mind. New trait unlocked. Sensory awareness. He chuckles. This was exactly the trait he needed from this dungeon. And now, there's not much left to gain here. Joansu stares down the enemy, letting out a cold, sharp laugh before stating flatly that the only one dying here is him. The only sound that follows is the man's scream, cut short by dead silence. When the scene is revealed, a bullet hole is cleaned through the unfortunate man's skull. With the henchman out of the way, Joansu announces that it's time to move up. He may have reached the 4th floor without much trouble, but he knows the real danger begins now. The fourth floor houses the gang's gambling den, and directly above it on the fifth floor is the boss's room. Moving cautiously, he edges toward a corner and peeks around, expecting enemies. But to his surprise, there's no one there. His brow furrows. Keeping his guard up, he advances to the game room's door and carefully pushes it open. Empty. Something's wrong. He can feel the air itself thick with danger. At that moment, a notification flashes. New trait unlocked. Focus. Suddenly, a sound from above catches his attention. He snaps his gaze upward. It's not an enemy. It's a drone. And worse, it's dropping a grenade. His eyes recognize it instantly, a flashbang. The grenade detonates. For a moment, Joansu is left blind, deaf, and completely vulnerable. Taking advantage of the opening, a man bursts from one of the side rooms, sprinting toward Joansu from behind, knife raised high. The impact lands. The attacker laughs, convinced he's caught a rat in a trap. And just like that, the boss of the Dagger Gang makes his entrance, a level 2 assassin named Tung. But Joansu remains unfazed. He smirks and tells Tung he really shouldn't be so excited. Tung, confused, notices something's wrong. His blade didn't pierce. What? Why the hell didn't it go through? He instinctively steps back, creating distance, still struggling to process what just happened. Joansu eyes his stance and scoffs. Who's the real rat here? He mocks. You sure it's not just your own insecurities talking? Joansu hadn't expected the gang boss to show up on the fourth floor. That complicates things. This wasn't in the original game. But even so, he had anticipated the attack pattern. The flashbang was part of a chained ambush triggered as soon as the player stepped into the boss room. If he hadn't unlocked sensory awareness and focus before this point, he would have walked straight into the trap. Tung may be a skilled assassin, but Joansu knows that the key to defeating him is to predict where the attacks will come from. Tung, in disbelief, asks how Joansu managed to block his ambush. Joansu simply smiles and replies that it's the bare minimum. Without wasting any time, he draws his blade and warns Tung that he's going to regret picking him as a target. He moves swiftly, launching an attack, but Tung dodges at the last moment. In the blink of an eye, the assassin disappears and reappears behind him. You're acting pretty tough for someone so slow, Tung taunts. Tung throws a dagger directly at Joansu. He notices the movement, spins his blade, and deflects the projectile in midair. As expected from an assassin. You're damn fast, Joansu acknowledges. He quickly realizes that the dagger was enchanted with poison. One simple touch and it would be lethal. The longer the fight drags on, the worse it'll be for him. Tung grins maliciously. You're pretty lucky, huh? How about making a deal? If you surrender now, I'll only cut off one of your arms. Joansu rolls his eyes. Less talking, more fighting? Tung laughs and mocks him. I can tell from a mile away that you're a gunman just by how terribly you hold that sword. And you talk too much. Joansu wonders why Tung is so confident about that. Maybe it's because until now he's only used firearms. The gang leader charges at him, declaring that he's going to make his death painful. Joansu raises his sword above his head. I only have one shot, and it's now. He strikes, but Tung easily evades and laughs. Too slow? But that's exactly what Joansu wanted. In the middle of the swing, he twists his body, spins the sword, and redirects the strike straight at Tung's head. The assassin's eyes widen in shock, realizing too late the mistake he made. What? A marksman using a combo attack? Tung falls to the ground but manages to block the blade at the last moment. Joansu smiles, shaking his head. I hate to break it to you, but as soon as I switch traits, I stop being a marksman. He releases a faint aura around his body and declares, now I'm a classic warrior trained in fencing. He adjusts his stance and activates the Mountain Crusher style. His blade descends with overwhelming force. Blood flies. Tung lets out a scream of pain as the blade tears through his chest. Joansu laughs. You dropped your guard. That's why you lost. Tung, on the verge of death, grips his knife tightly and throws it forward, shouting that he won't fall so easily. Joansu, completely caught off guard, didn't expect anything more from someone who was already defeated. The impact happens. Blood sprays through the air. Tung is sprawled on the ground, motionless, but Joansu looks to his side and sees the blade lodged in his own body. Damn it. I dropped my guard. Amateur move. He feels the poison spreading quickly through his veins. Without wasting any time, he reshuffles his traits to counteract the toxin. He manages to hold on, but the pain is intense. Outside he hears voices. Hurry. We need to get in. There's an intruder in the building. Joansu looks around. his vision begins to blur. He feels his energy draining from his body. No time to waste. I need to get out of here. On the 5th floor we see Joansu tied to a chair. He struggles until he falls to the floor trying to reach a shard of glass. I need to get out of here fast. He hears footsteps approaching. He looks up and sees none other than himself. The other Joansu crosses his arms and asks, "How the hell were you captured?" Without waiting for an answer, he crouches down and begins to untie him. Once Joansu is free, he can't hold back his tears. "You came all the way here, to save me?" The other Joansu merely sighs. "We'll talk later. We need to get out of here. They're coming." Now free, Shinsu tries to stand but can barely walk. Joansu watches him and clenches his fists, frustrated. "I can't believe they did this to you." He then crouches down. "Get on my back." Shinsu hesitates. "I can't ask for anything more. We don't have time for that. Hurry up." Shinsu hesitates for a moment but eventually gives in. "Just this once." He climbs onto Joansu's back, apologizing for the inconvenience. Joansu, however, is surprised by his loyalty. "I thought this world was a hell where I couldn't trust anyone, but I guess I was wrong." Back in Shinsu's office, Joansu devours healing soda bottles one after the other, trying to purify his body. After a while he finally smiles. "I did it, poison resistance. That took hours." Shinsu says, bringing even more bottles. "Drink as much as you need." Joansu grabs one last bottle and refuses the rest. "That's enough. I got the trait I wanted." Shinsu lowers his head. I can't apologize enough. It looks like information leaked while I was preparing the nectar. I shouldn't have trusted my employees." Joansu just smiles faintly. "Relax. In the end, I drank the nectar anyway." Shinsu is shocked and asks why he did that. Joansu responds casually. "If I hadn't drunk it, I never would have been able to save you." Shinsu starts to feel incredibly guilty. "I can't believe you wasted the precious nectar just to save me." Of course, that wasn't the real reason, but Joansu prefers he thinks that way. Suddenly, someone starts banging loudly on the door. Shinsu panics. "Is it the Dagger Gang? What do we do?" Joansu smiles. "Let's welcome them." He opens the door and to Shinsu's surprise, it's not the Dagger Gang standing there, but the Iron Fist Gang. The leader of the group looks at Joansu with a half-smile. "It was about time I got here." He crosses his arms. "I knew you weren't an ordinary guy, but I never imagined you'd wipe out the entire Dagger Gang. What do you want from me?" Joansu reflects for a moment. "Well, it's my turn to receive the reward for cleaning up this tough mission." He begins to explain how the two gangs hated each other and were constantly fighting over territory. In the game, the tutorial required the player to annihilate the Dagger Gang by helping the Iron Fist Gang take the building. As a reward, the rival gang offered various advantages. But now Joansu is struggling with an internal dilemma. Iron Fist asks, "Do you intend to create your own organization?" Joansu shakes his head. "That's not my style. I called you here to tell you that you can have the entire area that used to belong to the Dagger Gang." The gang leader is surprised. "You don't want anything for yourself?" "I prefer to work alone and have no intention of getting into the crime world. This is the best deal I can offer." Iron Fist ponders. "Such a deal has no drawbacks for me. Compared to the debt I had before, this feels like a bonus." Joansu laughs. "Looks like we're on the same page." Now that Iron Fist has the territory, Joansu finally makes his request. "So, I want a favor." "What do you want?" Just thinking about it, Joansu starts laughing darkly, but at the same time he smiles genuinely. "I want a house." Iron Fist is taken aback by the request. "A house?" Joansu explains. "I've been alone for a long time, and I realized I need a real base." He then begins clutching his stomach, pretending to be gravely wounded. Shinsu panics. "Joansu, are you okay?" Iron Fist clears his throat. "You wiped out those bastards? Then it's a deal." Joansu smiles. "I like direct people." Inside he's buzzing with excitement. "What kind of house are you looking for? A villa? An apartment?" Joansu shakes his head. "None of those. I need a secluded house with security, soundproofing, and an underground training center." Iron Fist thinks for a moment, then starts listing some options. Joansu bites his lip, hoping he'll mention exactly what he's waiting for. Then, finally, Iron Fist mentions a place. "There's a house on the outskirts of the area, on the Jenyabang slope." Bingo. Joansu feigns indifference, but inside he's ecstatic. That's the first house the player gets in the game. The main base in Arcane Soul? He heads to the location and upon arriving, can barely contain his excitement. Finally, he takes in the view and laughs to himself. This house is way better than I imagined. Memories flood his mind. When he first fell into Arcane Soul, he had no idea what to do. His hospital bill was a ridiculous 20 million won, and now he has a house that feels like a palace. Plus, now he has money coming in from the city's biggest security company. He could pay for a full year of hospital bills without a second thought. But this is still Arcane Soul. No time to relax. The game's story is going to move forward, and he'll have to face enemies like the Saint, who threaten to destroy the city. He grabs his pickaxe. Time to find out the real reason I chose this house. He heads down to the underground training room and starts tapping on the walls. It must be around here. After a few minutes, he finds a specific spot and begins hammering with force. The wall finally breaks. Joansa smiles. My instincts never fail. I think I'll finish this faster than I thought. He continues swinging his pickaxe back and forth, deep in the mine. However, things aren't going as quickly as he expected. Man, I had no idea this was so deep when I played. Even so, he's determined to continue. There's no turning back now. He keeps breaking the rocks until, suddenly, he hits a water source. Water begins pouring out, and without hesitation he takes a drink. Immediately, he feels a wave of revitalization course through his body. This is perfect. Along with the refreshing feeling, his body also starts to warm up. So this is it. A mana spring. As the name suggests, this spring is filled with pure mana. Even characters whose HP has reached 0 can fully recover by immersing themselves in it. Additionally, most debuffs disappear, showcasing its incredible therapeutic power. And guess where one of these free springs is located? That's right, in the house Iron Fist Gang gave him. This was one of the main reasons why this house was essential for his progress. Without wasting any time, he prepares a bath. In the game, I handled this with a click. Here it's much more labor-intensive. But it was worth it. He feels the energy flowing through his body, confirming just how powerful this spring really is. He grabs his blade and holds it firmly. This place is perfect for training. Here he can fully heal whenever he runs out of energy. So there's no excuse not to give his absolute best. 2 weeks pass. Throughout this entire time, he's been locked in the training room. Now he can activate the black flame whenever he wants while wielding the Mountain Breaker sword. He lifts his blade and strikes downward. Mountain Crusher. In a fluid motion, he moves into the second stage. Mountain Divider. Finally, he finishes with the third stage. Mountain Piercer. With a precise strike, he drives his sword forward. Not only has he mastered this technique, but he's also become accustomed to combining it with the black flame. Additionally, he gained new abilities during his training. Crushing Strike. Single Point. Meditation. Mana Stabilization. Fire Resistance. He leans back, catching his breath. Now that I've completed my training goal, there's just one thing left. The Mana Cultivation Technique. Unlike other skills, this one can't be acquired simply by training. Had he refined the nectar properly, he would have already reached level 3. But since he's only at level 2, there's still residual mana in his body. To fully absorb the mana from the nectar and level up, he needs this technique. The problem? It costs tens of billions of won. But he already knows where he can find a copy without spending that fortune. He heads to an antique shop. The shopkeeper eyes him, confused. Are you sure you want to buy this? It's been sitting in the back for over a decade. At that moment, a memory floods his mind. He recalls when he played Arcane Soul and discovered this secret. He's probably the only person in the world who knows that this technique is hidden in this shop. He makes his way to the market where the shop is located, walking casually. Time to level up. Upon arriving, he notices something strange. The shop's door is locked and surrounded by a blue mana barrier. He touches the barrier, feeling the energy pulse. Not only is the door closed, but there's a mana seal blocking the entrance. Looking around, he takes in the vastness of the area. This is the market with the most shops in the city. You can buy anything here, but what he needs is locked behind that barrier, and he's going to find a way in. In the game, this shop would be open at any time during business hours. But now in real life it's closed. And not just that. All the other shops around it are closed, leaving only this one standing. This is the complete opposite of how it was in the game. He narrows his eyes, feeling a chill run down his spine. This means that the world of Arcane Soul isn't exactly as I knew it.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really helps. And for more content like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see another part. I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you next time! Bye-bye!